Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today we're going to be working together to attempt to stop a ritual from being completed while maintaining our sanity in Cthulhu, Death May Die. As I said, this is a cooperative game. It's a scenario-based game in which you are going to work together in order to stop some baddie from showing up and wrecking the whole world, that sort of thing. Low stakes like that. Each player is going to have their own character, and this character starts as a fairly weak character, not too many special abilities, but as you go more and more insane, you unlock special things you can do in the game. The balance, however, is that, well, the more insane you go, the closer you are to perishing in the game. And if that happens, things aren't going to go your way. So that's the main crux of the whole thing. It's a fairly small design. It's a big box, and there's quite a bit in it. But as far as scale goes, it's a fairly contained scale. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to show you, hopefully, a fairly brief overview of how it all works together. We'll come on back after that. And I'll tell you what I think of it, who I think this might be for. To set up a play session in the game, you are going to first pick one of these two Elder Gods, and you are going to combine that box with one of these chapters here. So if you want to play, for example, Chapter 1, you're going to take that, which is Chapter 1 there, and combine it maybe with Cthulhu. I'm going to use these two things together here, combine the content, and I'm going to use all of the tiles here to build the board, pull out the specific monsters from the box that will be required for that, and then we are going to be largely ready to play. The players are going to be taking turns one after another until the game ends either in defeat or the players all win collectively. And I'm going to be using here on the back of the rulebook the guide that they have, which is very nice, to help me just sort of talk through this, because there is quite a bit going on. So, you all win if you defeat the final stage of the Elder God. The Elder God is represented here, and they have when Cthulhu advances what happens, but then once they actually come on the board, they'll have stages. So this is stage 1, and then stage 2, 3, and then a final stage. You defeat this stage, you win the game. And you'll lose if somebody dies, one of the investigator dies before Cthulhu ever makes it onto the board, then the players just lose. It would be an early defeat. Once Cthulhu is on the board, if you die, you no longer cause a defeat for the whole team, but you are out. So if that happens, so you're eliminated very early. If all the investigators are eliminated, that's an endgame trigger. And also if the progression token gets all the way back here. Right now, I'm going to be showing you just the one here for the sake of space on the table. But everybody would have one of these. And they all have unique abilities at the top. That is their own personal ability. And then two more abilities from a pool of possibilities. So swiftness and stealth for her, while he has arcane mastery and also stealth. But the top one will be unique. You've also got your health, your stress there, and then your sanity across the top on this long track. If you get all the way back over here, you also die. Same thing there on the health. So each round is going to go like this. Each investigator is going to take a turn, and on that turn they do the following. First, the investigator takes 3 actions. I'll show you what they are. Second thing, the investigator draws mythos cards. So every player is going to draw, at their second step, one of these mythos cards. This deck is made up of half the cards from the Elder God, half the cards from the chapter you're playing. So chapter 1 in this case. Once that's done, you are going to either investigate or fight. If there are monsters in there with you, any baddies, they're going to fight you. They're going to roll dice against you. If there are none, you're in what's called a safe space. You are going to investigate and draw one of these large cards and have an encounter of some sort, something you might be able to collect or do. And then once that's done, we simply resolve the end of turn. Alright, so my character here is going to begin. They start in this space over here, and they're going to, for the first action, run. So they're going to go into this space and then into that space. In this game, if you're in a room with enemies and you move, they all follow you. So you're going to, if you run around too much in rooms that have enemies, they will clump up on you and probably attack you. But Ahmed does have a stealth ability here that says when it's at the first level anyway, when you run, you may sneak once. That means he can leave behind one character, and he will do so. So he's going to run in here, only dragging along one of these cultists. So that's the first action. Second action is going to be attacking. So normally you roll these 3 black dice. Later on, you might unlock some of the green dice as you go a little bit more insane, which is bad because, well, you're going insane and you're getting closer to death, but you're also ramping up your power, so you'll roll these green ones as well. For now, we're just looking at these 3 black dice. So we're going to roll that and see what we get. In this case, I rolled 1 hit, another hit on this one combined with an insanity, and then finally just an insanity. So I could stop here, and I have dealt 2 hits. I can go over here and check how much it takes to hit those cultists. They have 2 health, so that would be enough to take one down. But I could, for pretty much every roll in the game, you can take 1 stress and re-roll a die. So I might want to re-roll that one. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to get another success. That's good because it does not take away a sanity. And I'm going to resolve that. So I take 1 sanity hit on that track, and I eliminate one of these cultists. I'll put them over here in the pool. And then for my third and final action, I'm going to go ahead and attack again. So I'm going to roll that. I have a blank, I have another hit, and then I have one of these elder signs. These are normally nothing, unless something says it's a hit or whatever. In this case, my good man here has Arcane Mastery. When making any roll, you may count one of these signs as a success. So that's great. That's 2 successes. Again, enough to take down the cultist here. And they are gone. And that's going to be it. Next up, I'm going to draw a Mythos card. So I'm going to draw one from the top of the deck and deal with that. Students, go mad. If you have any student companions, discard 1 student and summon 1 cultist in your space. Okay, that is not a thing I qualify for, so I will just discard that. So that is step 2. For step 3, we're going to investigate or fight. Well, I'm in a room where there are no baddies, so it's a safe space. So I will investigate. I'm going to draw one of these cards. Now, the card's going to have a little flavor text in the middle, telling you what's going on, what you've encountered, and then typically 2 possibilities on the side. Depending on what you do or what you want, what you're able to achieve, you'll be able to take this card as one thing or the other. So let me take a look here. Very well, I am going to go ahead and take the 3 wounds, 1, 2, 3, and claim the amulet. Once you claim something, you slide it under your board, either on this side or that one, depending what it is. And that's going to be it for my exploration there, for my investigation. And then we resolve the end of turn effects. And that's the end of my turn. It would now be the next player's go to move, possibly do a little fighting, maybe a little investigation, ultimately trying to beef up and disrupt the ritual. In this case, in this chapter, the ritual is all about destroying the equipment, which are these tiles found throughout the board. So the idea here being you can make a roll against a lab in your space. Doesn't count as an attack. And each success would deal 1 wound to the lab. When it has 4 wounds or more, you destroy it, you turn it over, there's an effect on the other side. And then once you have done a certain number of them, destroyed 4 out of the 5, then you have disrupted the ritual. You're also, based on what this card says, going to be spreading some fire every time the Elder One advances. So he's got his own advance effect, and then the chapter is going to give you one. So those 2 things are going to happen. Now, let's say I was not by myself. Let's say, in fact, that this very pleasant young man is going to be in the room there with me, and I would not investigate for one thing, so I would not have looked at this card I tucked under, and instead he would attack me. Now, this is all the monsters you're likely to encounter in the scenario, this one here being that one, and you're going to roll whatever it says down the side. In this case, 2 green and a black die. You roll this just against yourself. So I would roll that, and I would see what I get. In this case, 2 hits. Not great, but you can spend stress to reroll. So I would reroll one of those. That's no good. I might spend it again and reroll. That's still no good. I might even spend the last stress and reroll. And it's that one which is normally nothing, except over here his power is when it attacks, each of the elder signs counts as a success. So after all that, I might still take a couple of wounds. Again, that did not happen, thankfully. It was all a dream. There's one more big thing I need to explain before I wrap this up, and that is insanity and leveling up your special abilities. You see, at the beginning of the game, every character is dealt one of these cards here, which is supposed to be a pathology, something they are suffering from. My character here is paranoid, so you have that at the beginning of the game. As you suffer more and more insanity, you eventually hit these highlighted spaces. When you do so, you are going to trigger a couple of things. The first one is whatever your pathology here is. And then, once that's done, you are going to level up one of your abilities. So perhaps I really like that healing prayer, and it's been coming in handy, so I want to push that up. And on the second level, it says, instead of what I was doing before, heal 2 in any combination of stress and wounds. Great. That means at the end of every turn, I get to heal someone else for 2 or even heal myself for 2. So at the end of my upcoming turn, let's say I took another 2 stress. Great, I get to heal that and that perhaps. Or maybe I'll push up my stealth, meaning I can leave more characters behind. Instead, when you run, you may sneak 3 times instead of just once. Or arcane mastery. Instead of having one of those elder signs count as a success, I may count any number of them as successes. So perhaps that's a good one to take on early. You know, you'll have a lot of dice count for you no matter what face you get, pretty much. So that's another thing that's important. Managing what you level up, when you do it, being careful that you're not racing up this track too much because, again, the closer you get to the end, the more powerful you are, the closer you are to defeat as well. There are some that are going to have a little green die right below them, and that means from now on, every time you roll dice, you're going to include one of the green dice as well. And thankfully, these do not have the insanity symbol on them. They have 2 blanks, no insanity, so you will not have to worry about that part when it comes to the green dice. Alright, that is Cthulhu Death May Die, and I have to say, while I like the game alright, I do certainly have some issues with it. This is not going to be a glowing review for the game, but there are certainly folks out there who I think will absolutely adore the game. You might be one of them yourself. The main drawbacks I have are, well, a few different things. I'm going to start with them so that I can finish with things I did enjoy, okay? So, issues I have, and this was the very first thing that hit me after my very first play. I played this a lot because my thoughts were mixed, and I just kept playing it to really solidify what I wanted to say. The first one was falls under the aesthetics category. I think the minis are fantastic. These are such good quality miniatures. They're large, they're well made. They even unpainted like these are, they are just fantastic. And I think the art style in the game is great. Iconography, the typography in it, everything looks really good. My issue is with the tiles. The tiles in the game are simply too small for everything that happens in there. One of the central mechanisms in this game is that as you are moving around the map, any baddies that are with you, you drag along. And if you end up in a fairly small room, you cannot possibly hope to put every mini that would go in that room on the cardboard tile. It's ridiculous. It means it's not even close to being large enough. So that was my first issue. At the end of that first game I played, I thought, what? Am I missing something here? Because even just the main baddie here, Cthulhu, will take up most of this one room, right? I mean, that's it. And then you throw an investigator in there, a couple of cultists that followed you in that room. It looks sloppy. It just looks really messy and sloppy, and like not enough attention was paid to the surface on which you're going to be playing. Clearly, a lot of attention goes into the miniatures. We know this. They sell this game. A lot of attention seems to have gone into the character artwork and their abilities. That's cool. But the boards are just too small. So that's a big one for me, because I find it sloppy and it does not look good on the table. The other one is replayability. Though the replayability itself, I think, is pretty good. 6 chapters, 2 Elder Gods, a decent amount of characters, right, that the players can be. My main issue here is with scalability. This game is difficult anyway, but it is beyond ridiculous difficult if you are playing with fewer than 4 good characters. So the 2-player rules suggest you just have 1 character each. That means 2 good guys, 2 heroes. If you're playing solitaire, you're running 2 characters. I think you need 4. That's when it starts to get fair, right? Does not guarantee a win for you, but it starts to get fair. Fewer than that, with 3, you're probably not going to win. With 2, I just don't see it happening. I've played a few times with 2, and there's not even getting close, right? So it seems weird to me. A lot of games do it. Why wouldn't they just say, if you're playing with 2 characters, two players rather, you each run 2 characters. If you're playing solitaire, you need to run 4 characters. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I can barely keep straight when I have to deal with 1 or 2. But 4 would be a headache, but it would be balanced. That's what I'm saying, or at least it feels to me like it would be balanced. Again, these are my impressions of what I'm looking at here. So I don't think the scalability is there. You need 4 or more players at the table if you want to play this. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck. This game has a ton of luck. It's a dice chucker. This is the kind of game where you're going to be moving into a room and chucking a bunch of dice. You might draw a card here and there. You might, kick up an ability here and there, but everything is about walking around and chucking a handful of dice. And because they are volatile and they are dice, that might bite you. I've had games of this that left a really bad taste in my mouth because I was racing up the insanity track and my re-rolls just weren't there. And when I had the re-rolls, I would spend that stress to re-roll and you just get the insanity face again. That's a problem, right? Because you can never back down on that track. Once you hit a certain point, you cannot ever, pull it back and recover that. So it's really lucky. You have to be okay with a game that is going to be, yes, cinematic, and I'll talk about the theme in 1 second, which I do like, but you are, the strategic choices you make seem to be, take a backstage to, or a backseat to, chucking some dice and, seeing what you do. So there you go. The thing is, I do like, yes, the thematic ties and the setting are awesome. This is a game that is packed with action, and it does not feel like it's like where you are beginning, you will build towards a climax. You begin right at it. There's a ritual happening like now. You have to stop them now. You are losing your mind already. You're not starting to, fray at the edges a little bit. You're there. So I find that very interesting and captivating, and it is cinematic. So I like that. I think the game length is good. Yes, it's a long game, but it's got a good flow. And things continue to happen as you are playing, so it does not stagnate. And then I think the ease of play is pretty good. The game does have a good flow. There's a turn order track on the back of the rulebook, like I said. And on your player sheet, you are also going to find here down the side a turn order breakdown. The whole thing is smooth. From that point of view, you can easily follow what you should be doing. I don't often find myself getting lost in a turn in this game. So that's great. So there you go. That's what I think of it. I do obviously have some issues with it, but I think they might be my issues with it. Now, some of the people I played with also had the same issue. Some of them even more so than myself. But I do think there's an audience for it, So let me give you my bottom line here. If you value atmosphere and difficulty more than strategy, and if you always have at least 4 players, this might be the game for you. This is going to get a 7 out of 10 from me, which does mean it squeaks into a seal of approval. And I want to say again that this is for someone who wants Cthulhu's atmosphere more so than a strategic miniatures game where it's all about planning things just right and executing that plan to perfection. Not to say that you cannot plan, but be prepared for bad games of this, bad sessions of it. Yes, you can just set up and play again, of course, but it's going to happen. Sometimes the dice just don't go your way. It doesn't work out. So if you like the cinematic nature of it, you like the atmosphere, yes, I found it a little too cramped for personal tastes, and I found that oftentimes it didn't matter too much what I did, if I went this way or that. If the dice rolling went my way, I was doing all right. So there you go. That is Cthulhu Death May Die. Hopefully it is for you, so that you can enjoy it. I'd love for more people to find games that they enjoy and have a great time with. But for me, 7 out of 10 is where I'm at with this one. So there you go, everybody. That's it for me. I'm Z Garcia, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.